Hi there, this is a how-to video for Chris Hein Orchestral Brass, and here we're going to look at how to deal with dynamics. During the recording and programming of Chris Hein Orchestral Brass, there was a great deal of emphasis placed on capturing a wide dynamic range, from the softest notes to the loudest and more aggressive. The players were really pushed to their limit to get the maximum possible dynamics out of their instruments. Within the orchestral brass contact instrument, most sustained articulations have 6 velocity layers, the shorts have 8, and the special articulations have 3 to 4 velocities. The many sample velocity layers provide enough variation to enable a dynamic range from ultra soft to extremely hard and loud. There are 4 ways to control the huge dynamic range in the articulation preset page. Just a side note here, you can have different dynamic modes on each key switch preset with the same articulation loaded. In this way, you can switch between the dynamic modes without changing the articulations on the fly with the key switches. When set to keyboard, the up to 8 velocity layers are controlled via keyboard velocity. This is where the 2 dynamic expression articulations really show their full potential. 6 velocity layers have been sampled here, each with a natural dynamic curve ranging from soft to loud. The dynamic expression articulations provide the easiest way to play a realistic dynamic performance without touching any controller at all. Just play on the keyboard. Let's hear that with 3 French horns. As you can hear, the dynamic curve is the same for each instrument. Thanks to the recording technique where the players play together in 3 rooms, the dynamic curves are reliably equal for all of these instruments. So now let's hear dynamic expression long with the French horns and trombones playing together. The second dynamic mode is crossfade, well known from many other libraries. Dynamic is controlled via MIDI controller, CC11 by default. Thanks to the phase-aligned samples, the blending between the 6 dynamic layers works smoothly without any phasing or artifacts. Let's hear that blending exposed with the solo instrument. Here is the same soft dynamic transition, played by trombone 3. Now to the fun part. Here's the trumpet in crossfade mode, dynamically controlled by CC11, and as you see the velocity has no effect. Now let's turn on the note heads, and we'll make sure to have stack enabled and the note head set to keyboard. With CC11 set to 0, the sustained note stays at its lowest dynamic, while the short articulation plays a velocity sensitive stack on the sustains. Using this method, you can play dynamically with many variations of attack and control the dynamic of the sustains with CC11. This is a really flexible way to control the dynamic of the attack portion of the note and the actual sustain part of the note independently from one another. However, if note head is set to crossfade, then the shorts are still stacked on top of the sustains, but the dynamic of both is controlled via MIDI controller. The third mode, keyboard and crossfade, is a combination of both modes I mentioned previously. Dynamics are controlled via keyboard velocity, but if you move CC11, the fader takes over control even after the note is pressed. Lastly, if auto crossfade is selected, the dynamic is controlled by a predefined dynamic curve. You can choose from different presets, or simply draw your own in the interface. The length of the curve can be adjusted with the length fader. And the curve is relative to the keyboard velocity, so dynamic playing is still very much possible. Thanks for watching this video. There are plenty more how-to videos in this series, so be sure to check those out to see the full range of features of Chris Hein Orchestral Brass. And bye for now.